Thank you, Domi. Thank you for the introduction. Welcome, everybody. I hope you can hear me well. So to your questions, maybe to kick off there, my favorite app right now, and actually throughout the last couple of months working from home, is actually Too Good To Go and many other food delivery apps that I discovered. So I tried out Too Good To Go because I thought it's just a good thing to try out to not waste food, and I have to say that I'm really fascinated by it. So that's number one. And number two, for Black Friday, I was trying to get a PlayStation 5. So I think a lot of people had a look at that. I was hoping that there will be a new wave over Black Friday, but I was disappointed. So I have to have another look later on this evening to see what else there is to be to be bought. Okay, kicking off. So I'm going to basically present the stage, or make the stage ready for the amazing speakers that we have lined up today. And I'm going to share some high-level information on the trends that we were seeing throughout the last couple of months, especially focusing on the last quarter of this year, to really give you an idea how the app economy is developing. Exactly. So short disclaimer, this is a company policy. Everything that you hear from me is not an investment advice. So that's just one disclaimer up front. Quick words to me. Domi already introduced myself. So yeah, Chris Hill from Berlin, lead up the App Annie team for Central Europe, and I've been measuring the app economy here since 2016. Next one. Yeah, App Annie, who for any of you who does not know us, so we work with multiple companies across the globe from different verticals to show them how the market is developing and how competitors and their own apps are performing in this space. So let's kick it off with the new normal, I would say, right? So I think all of us have been probably mostly working from home throughout the last couple of months, and we've seen a tremendous shift in the mobile app space. And if we go to the next slide, we can actually see from a global perspective, but this is actually also almost the exact picture for Germany, where the growth actually happened in the mobile app space. Yeah. So we really saw that these mobile offerings, especially some, have really boomed, and you can see the growth rates of some verticals or app categories across both stores. And we saw, for instance, that streaming obviously grew by 43%. And this is on time spent, so cumulative annual growth rate from 2017 to next year first quarter, actually, with the forecast included. Food delivery, I think we have seen a huge growth. I mentioned it in my intro. We have HelloFresh and Delivery Hero on the call. I think they will share some more insights on that, but this is, I think, very natural that we saw this huge growth there. Same goes with fitness apps and finance apps. So people were eager to work out at home, manage their finances from their couch through their mobile device. Education is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, growth rate that we've seen. We have Bubble on the call, sitting within that vertical, so eager to hear more from Bubble, how they experienced their growth throughout the last couple of months. And obviously we also had shopping and business, right? Shopping, I think we'll see an even huger push in time spent, downloads, engagement throughout Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and Christmas coming up. But naturally, the business side of things, if we look at, I think maybe everybody has downloaded some kind of web screening app to their mobile device over the last couple of months. So this is also something we see. One thing I want to highlight at the end that's not on the slide here, because we also have FlixBus on the call. We actually saw from our data also that FlixBus throughout the summer months, when it was kind of easing up a little bit, picked up again in downloads across multiple regions. Germany, Italy was one I saw. Also there, we're looking forward to seeing the growth in the mobility space coming up again. Yeah, let's have a look at the trends in Germany, and we can jump to the next slide immediately. So very top level, I'd like to just let you know that the app downloads were crazy in the last quarter. And I think one thing that we can see here on the global level, that we had 333 billion downloads. And interestingly here is that we see a huge increase in the non-gaming space. If we look at the last couple of years, we always see a huge increase in the gaming space, but this really pushed, and this is what we will see in the data, engagement downloads across non-gaming app verticals. But let's have a look at Germany on the next slide and see where Germany fits. So Germany, if we look at the global landscape of 156 countries, Germany is actually number 15 when it comes to download volumes across the board, including gaming and non-gaming. I think one noticeable switch is between India and the United States in the past couple of months, or actually starting last year, where we saw actually India overtaking the US in total download volumes, especially on Android, Google Play. For the next one. So let's have a look at the categories and downloads by categories. And I think this is something that we can correlate to the first slide that I showed. So not surprisingly, games is still leading the way. It's becoming a very, very competitive landscape. You see some consolidation within the landscape, but a lot of new games, especially with the new devices that are being deployed to the market, we're seeing better and better games. Shopping is, I think, very, very interesting to see. What we saw personally, what I saw is a huge push, especially from grocery companies and supermarket chains that really go into the mobile space and are transitioning their apps, let's say, for instance, from couponing really to mobile commerce. Yeah, and we have tools, entertainment, and social really leading the way when it comes to the top 5 download categories. Going on. So looking at the time spent, and this is something I think incredible when we think about the gross consumer spend in store, yeah, and this has been absolutely staggering, yeah. If we think how much revenue users are prepared to spend on mobile devices. This is capturing in-app revenue, so it's excluding ad revenue, it's excluding third-party transactions, but what we do see is that it is a 35% year-over-year growth, whereas over the last years we had something between 15 and 20% growth. So we can really see that people are prepared to spend more for good services and good apps. Right, and here we have a different picture. So if you remember, Germany was number 15 when it came to downloads. If we compare this actually globally by consumer spend, Germany is on position 6 right now. The United States is still one of the most important markets for many of the attendees, I think, as well. But Germany is really moving up the ladder here. Next slide. So, top categories. So I think this is also not too surprising with the games leading the way with about 601 million in revenue. That's net revenue for just for the third quarter this year. So that was actually where the lockdown eased a little bit. But what we see is the health and fitness category growing exponentially, really, almost. Yeah, across the board, there are so many new fitness apps that have been launched, especially also fitness chains that moved into the so let's say gyms that moved into the digital space and provided digital offerings. Lifestyle, social, and entertainment are pretty close together when it comes to consumer spend. And last but not least, for one interesting metric is time spent. And I think this is something that we've been seeing over the last couple of years. Interestingly, with the situation, with the Corona situation now, we did see a huge push, another push in growth for downloads. But what we've seen over the couple of years that users have kind of selected their top apps, yeah, on their devices. And now we're seeing that they're spending more and more time in those apps. And as these services are being improved and further developed, we see this rise. And we actually see this here, 25% year-on-year growth when it comes to actually hours spent in apps. And we're expecting this to grow over the winter. And next, here we have the time spent by the categories. And I think, not surprisingly, if you look at the pink category, we have social and communication. This is also heavily impacted by the business, right, that has been taken mobile. So through the messaging apps and through the video conferencing apps. But I do want to point out, even though maybe it is a little bit small, but the health and fitness segment here, just think about the 70% more time that has been spent in health and fitness apps. And by the way, this will also include meditation apps, for instance, right? So anything that is really connected to well-being. News and magazines also increasing with the news needed for the current events. Right. And then the last slide, almost the last slide for this, is one thing I do want to point out and keep your eyes open for a big report being released from App Annie very soon on the Gen Z. And this is really interesting to see how the younger folks in our society are really outperforming every other age group and demographic when it comes to time spent, download volumes, engagement, and also revenue generated through mobile apps. And the leading ones here you see are Twitch, Snap, Zalando being one of the German brands among these. We have Subway Surfers, and finance is becoming very important for these young folks as well. Yeah, and last two slides, or one slide, is on ad spend. So this is a prediction that we have for the next year too. So what we saw here is that even though the pandemic hit, I think, all of us very hard, we did see that a lot of companies really shifted their ad spend and their ad focus to mobile, web as well, but especially to mobile. And we saw a huge uptick in ad campaigns that were being launched, and also the push for new services which were supported through ad campaigns across the industry. Yeah, and that's closing slide for me. So with Fuel the App Economy, if you're interested to see more about the data, please reach out.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Chris.